We all know Kion as the son of Simba and leader of the Lion Guard. Later on, we see how Kion had to travel to the Tree of Life, where he met Rani. Rani was the leader of the Night Pride, protectors of the Tree of Life, and was soon to become queen. But Rani was still very young, and not always so sure if she was going to be a good queen. So when she heard from Queen Jana that this great roar of the elders had returned, she had to find out what that was. Well, that was Kion. And Kion eventually really started to like Rani. At first, it seems like Rani loves Kion too, but when we listen closely to some things she says, I understand that you could have your doubts about that. Because sometimes it seems like Rani only wanted Kion because of his roar. So pay close attention as we dive deeper into Kion and Rani's love story to find out if Rani really loved Kion. To understand their story better, let me freshen up your memory to remind you what the Roar of the Elders is. The Roar of the Elders is a great gift that the leader of the Lion Guard receives to protect the Pride Lands. It was discovered by Askari near Chica Escarpment. This was a place next to the Tree of Life where Askari's spirit lives on now. The Lion Guard had always been a group of lions, but that was until Kion received the gift of the Roar. Kion was really special because he chose a honey badger, hippo, egret, and cheetah for his guard. This made him very powerful, and with the Roar of the Elders, they could defeat almost any enemy. But if the Lion Guard is meant to protect the Pride Lands, why did they go to the Tree of Life? Well, Kion and his guard were about to defeat Scar's evil spirit when they got a surprise. Because Scar had also made a plan and made Ushari bite Kion in his eye. But Kion wasn't the only one who got hurt during the fight, because his friend Ono also got hurt. He had damaged his eyesight due to the volcano's smoke. So, after Kion and his guard got to defeat Scar's evil spirit, they went to Rafiki to find help for their wounds. But Rafiki couldn't help them, and sent Kion and his guard to the Tree of Life under guidance from Makini, his apprentice, to find healing. But someone else was coming with them, since Ono could barely see anymore. This is when Anga joins the Lion Guard and goes with them to the Tree of Life. But when they finally arrive, they didn't get the warm welcome they'd hoped for, because Bunga accidentally caused a massive rock slide, blocking the entrance of the Tree of Life. Because of this, Rani and her Night Pride saw Kion and his guard as enemies. Because, as we see, it wasn't really love at first sight for Kion and Rani. Kion lost control of the Roar and sent Rani's brother Balio flying. Rani doesn't trust Kion and tells him that him and his friends will never be welcome at the Tree of Life. But everything changed when Rani went to tell her grandmother, Queen Jana, about what had happened. Because to Rani's surprise, she was actually excited about this strange roar. She was happy that the roar had finally returned and told Rani to welcome Kion and his guard into the Tree of Life. Rani didn't really agree with Queen Jana, but she still went to Kion because she had to. But once Kion and his guard were in, Rani started to dislike them even more, because Kion and his guard didn't realize they had been followed on their way to the Tree of Life. They made lots of friends on their way, but also lots of enemies. Well, these enemies liked the sound of rare special animals, so they followed them to the Tree of Life under the lead of Makucha. The angry Rani went to tell her grandmother about this right away and said they never should have let Kion and his guard in. Kion apologized and offered to help the Night Pride to chase them away, but Rani angrily refused his offer. But the calm Queen Jana saw no worries, but told Kion he doesn't need to help Rani. After all, he came there to be healed, and he should help himself first before he could help others. But Kion had some trouble with not helping. Because Kion and his Lion Guard were so used to defending the Pride Lands, they also wanted to help at the Tree of Life, but Rani kept on refusing, telling him she was the leader here, even telling Kion that he wasn't the best leader, but he might have potential to become a good one. Well, doesn't that sound like a sweetheart? She really didn't want anything to do with Kion, until she slowly started to realize that the roar might help her, because we hear Rani say this to Kion. "Do you really need the roar? My grandmother said you were supposed to come here, that the roar was destined to return. Maybe she meant that the roar should stay here, even if you leave." When she says it like that, I can understand that it seems she only wanted the roar to stay, not specifically Kion. I think that this might have been the case at first, but when she got to know Kion better, I think she truly started to like him. And I don't blame her for at first only wanting the roar to stay, because her grandma, Queen Jana, was really excited about the roar. She knew it was destined to return, and that it could be a great help. Rani, feeling really nervous about becoming queen, knew it would really help her ruling the Tree of Life. She would be much more confident with a powerful roar by her side, while she was still learning how to be a good queen. And Queen Jana wasn't the only one, because almost any animal was really impressed by the roar. But as time went on, she got to know Kion better. They grew closer and closer, and when Queen Jana completed her journey in the Circle of Life, Rani was glad she had Kion to support her. Instead of going to her brother for comfort, it was Kion who she went to hug her. I think this was the moment Rani realized there was more to Kion than just the roar, and after she saw that he could also be a great leader, she realized they actually looked a lot alike, and her feelings started to grow. Because when she heard Kion was working on his roar, she knew she had to check that out. But as we know, Bunga was also a big fan of the roar, so he insisted on going with her. But when they arrived at Chica Escarpment, they couldn't believe their eyes. Rocks were flying and broken into pieces. It was amazing. Rani fell even more for Kion, and also Bunga was a big fan. But the show didn't last for long, because Anga went to get them back to the Tree of Life because new dangers had been coming. Makucha and his army had brought some more friends and closed the Night Pride into the Tree of Life. What they didn't know was that Kion's roar was now more powerful than ever. And when they got back, Rani finally trusted Kion to handle it. And it was a good thing she did, because now that Kion had mastered the roar, he had those bad guys out in no time. He saved everyone and sent Makucha and his friends far away. And the Night Pride finally understood why Queen Jana was so happy that the roar had returned. Nirmala told Kion that he really was healed now, but Rani didn't want him to leave yet. Now I understand why Queen Jana was so happy for the roar to return to the Tree of Life, and now that it's here, you should stick around, Rani said. See how she said, "you here," instead of just saying the roar should stay? Kion needed a moment to think about it, but he really started to fall for Rani. She made him realize how well they worked together and how much they were alike. It was really tempting for Kion to stay, and even the rest of his guard really liked it at the Tree of Life, because Bunga finally met another honey badger, Binga, and even though she was better at everything, Bunga still found her unbunga-leavable. But before the guard could decide, they had to return to the Pride Lands, because Janja and Jasiri had traveled all the way to the Tree of Life, with some help from Azad, to warn Kion and his guard about Zira, who was causing trouble in the Pride Lands again. Well, the choice was made for now, and Kion had to return to the Pride Lands. We can see here just how sad Rani was, and she told him and his guard they would always be welcome at the Tree of Life. It was a long journey back to the Pride Lands, but luckily, Foolie's cheetah friend Azad knew some faster ways. With some help of the roar, Kion could make all the cheetah ways accessible for anyone. But once they got home, It seemed like all the problems had already been solved. A new Lion Guard had formed while they were away, and there was peace in the Pride Lands again. Kion soon realized how much he missed Rani, and told his sister Kiara about her. She comforted him by saying she thought Mom and Dad would understand if he returned, and Kion was happy she understood. But Kion was still leader of the Lion Guard and had to protect the Pride Lands, or so he thought, because Vitani, leader of the new Lion Guard that had been created while Kion was away, thought differently about that. Because she was the sister of the future king, so she insisted that her group would be the new Lion Guard. At first, Kion didn't agree with this because his guard still had the mark, and he thought that they were the true protectors of the Pride Lands. But Vitani wasn't convinced and stood her ground. So they made up a competition to decide whose Lion Guard was the best for the Pride Lands, and when Kion realized Vitani was fierce enough to lead her guard without the roar, Kion knew he had to pass on his roar to her, remembering Ascari's words in the back of his mind, because Ascari had told him that only the one that can let go of the roar completely can truly master it. So that is when Kion passed his duties of the Lion Guard over to Vitani and her group. But when Ascari saw this, he also gave Kion the roar to go help at the Tree of Life. And Kion couldn't be happier, because he could finally go back to Rani again. And when Kion and his guard returned, Rani couldn't believe her eyes. She hadn't stopped thinking about Kion for a moment and was so happy that he came back to her at the Tree of Life. But not only Kion and his guard came to the Tree of Life, a lot of Pridelanders had traveled with them to see Kion become king. Then it was up to Makini to present Kion as Queen Rani's king. Even Makini's parents came to watch this, and everyone couldn't be happier. You could sure say that love was in the air, seeing how happy Binga and Bunga and Jasiri and Janja looked as well. Kion and Rani had a bright future ahead, with many years to come. With the predators out of sight, they can finally really enjoy their time together. I think they will soon start having cubs, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like we will be getting a season 4 of the Lion Guard. If you want me to create a video about how I think the future of the Tree of Life will look like, then let me know that in the comments below. I think Rani and Kion also won't stop visiting the Pride Lands, since Kion also has lots of friends and family there, but I'm curious how you feel about Kion and Rani. Do you think Rani was only interested in the roar, or do you think she actually fell in love with Kion along the way? Maybe a better way to look at it would be like this. What do you think would happen to Kion and Rani's relationship if Kion had returned to the Tree of Life without the roar? Would Rani still have liked them the same, or do you think Kion would have ended up with another lion like Tifu Uzuri? Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed Kion and Rani's love story, be sure to hit that notification bell so you won't miss any of the news stories about the Pride Lands, and I'll catch you in the next one.